Toby had been settling in nicely on Thomas's branch line. He made an excellent first impression with the passengers and workmen. He and Thomas got on swimmingly after Toby had frightened the policeman. Henrietta enjoyed their trips up to the quarry, and workmen would always sing their praises for such a smooth ride. Toby had met many of the mainline engines. There was a red engine who would glare and mutter insults, but Toby didn't take much notice. Of course, we know that red engine as James, who was feeling cockier than usual. He had been pulling passengers for almost a fortnight, and he didn't want it any other way. It was a warm, sunny morning as James simmered warmly in his shed. He awoke with a smug look on his smokebox. His crew were preparing him for the day ahead. "Morning, James. Time to go to work. Our train is waiting for us in the yards," called his driver. James puffed excitedly out of the sheds, oblivious to the train he was rostered to pull. "Dirty trucks! I can't be pulling dirty trucks. I have a reputation to maintain," he protested indignantly, scowling around the yard. A train of tar wagons was waiting for him in a siding. "Goodness me, do you ever stop complaining?" said an unfamiliar voice. James looked over and spotted Toby puffing alongside him. "What are you doing here?" hissed James. "The quarry was closed for blasting, and Percy is away having maintenance done," answered Toby. "The Fat Controller asked me to shunt in the yard for a while. Now please take your train. I need the siding." Toby chuffed away as James fumed over to the siding, biffing into his trucks. "Who does that dirty object think he is ordering me about?" he muttered as he was coupled up. The guard's whistle blew and James puffed away. James made his way safely to Marvin Station. As he began to slow down, he noticed something odd chuffing about the car park. "Who is that?" asked James as he stopped at the station. A green steamroller sat in the car park with a group of workmen. They had been tarmacking the road and were just on a tea break. The steamroller glared at James. "What are you staring at, puffball?" snapped the steamroller. "What did you call me?" hissed James. "I called you a puffball, and I asked you what you were staring at," growled the steamroller again. "Well, I was staring at you. Another oddity on our railway. First that grubby tram, and now you." The steamroller was fuming. He whistled angrily at James. "Oddity, am I? Well, let me tell you something. My name is George, and I'm much more important than you'll ever be." The two got into a fierce argument and were barking insults at one another, until James had finished shunting the wagons into the siding and departed back to the big station, leaving George frustrated and rather distracted. That evening, James was telling the other engines all about George. Edward and Toby couldn't help but laugh. "Hot-headed and rude. Does that remind you of anyone, Toby?" asked Edward innocently. "A certain red engine comes to mind," cheeked Toby, and the sheds filled with laughter. James glared at the others and went broodingly to sleep. "Right, lads, we won't get any more work done this evening. Time to go home." The workmen then loaded their tools and equipment into a cart for George to carry. George's driver, who was exhausted from the day's work, started backing up to align with the cart. Then there was trouble. As his driver yawned loudly, George swerved to the left and stopped with a bump. Nobody had been hurt, but George had backed into one of the tar wagons, causing its front left wheel to slip between the rails. "Ah, George, look what you've done! We'll have to leave those wagons here for now. I'm sure nobody will mind." George was fuming and rolled away in a huff. Little did he realise the placement of those wagons were to cause a lot of trouble for a certain red engine. But that's another story.